What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now let's unmask them. Today's guest is a former head coach, and I'll make sure I say that first. He's a young and bright assistant coach, and he has a tremendous basketball mind, an excellent talent evaluator, a tremendous teacher, and a true professional. And he's also a future head coach again in this business, and he's a native of Hereford County, North Carolina. And his name is Robert Burke. And before we go into that, I'll kind of talk about his resume a little bit. He's a 1999 graduate of Shawan University, and I remember the days when it was Shawan College when they were junior college. So, he had a chance to play for his dad, who coached there for a long time, for 22 years, who recently passed a year ago. So rest in peace to him, to a great, not only coach, but a great person. And then so after he finished playing for his dad, and he was captain of the team for a couple of years, he goes over to Ireland. He becomes player coach. So he always had the coaching in his blood, even though he's a player. He played for Clare County Jets over in Ireland. Then after a year, he comes back home, and now he's at Limestone College for 2 years as an assistant coach for basketball. But then he's also doing head coach over at cross country. So he was double dipping. And when you're at that level, you're wearing multiple hats. So that's what he was. And then he goes on to Campbell University for 2 years, from 2002 to 2004, as an assistant coach, before getting his own program at Spartanburg Methodist, where he was a head coach. Tremendous record for 6 years at Spartanburg Methodist. And then from there, he goes on with Chuck and Giselle, Lefty Giselle's son, from 2010 to 2015 at the Citadel as an assistant coach. And then he goes to Georgia Southern, and he's the director of basketball operations there with Coach Byerton, Mark Byerton, for 2 years before going to UNC Wilmington. He was a director of basketball ops there for 1 year before being promoted to an assistant coach for the last 2 years, or say a year and a half, where he's an assistant coach. And then he has a chance to take over the program for the latter part of the 2019-20 season. As they let coach go there. And then, so that's an experience with himself, having a chance to coach in the Colonial Athletic Association. And now he's out in Colorado, where, we was talking about it before we came on air. One day it's 55 degrees, and the next day it's 27 and it's snowing. So he's just recently got out to Colorado, and he's at Colorado College, doing what he loves to do, which is coaching, and as well as being a father, his wife Neely and his two daughters. So I want to welcome to the show a guy I've been knowing for a long time, energetic guy, and he's just, great to be around. You have a chance to talk with him. You always want to reach out to him and talk to him. But Rob Burke, I want to welcome you to the show.
Lamar, thank you, man. That's a heck of an introduction you gave me there, man. I appreciate that. You made me sound a lot better than what I really am, probably. But thank you, man. I'm excited about being here, man. Excited about sharing with you. It's good to see you, man. I ain't seen you in a minute. We bumped heads there in the Colonial a couple years ago.
Yes, it was, man. And like I said, I was actually happy for you, and I had a chance to when you got the job, and you coaching, and I mean, like, you're talking about a guy who was energetic, and I thought you inspired your guys for that stretch, coming down the stretch. They really bought into what you were, teaching, and like, you kind of had to start it back over within that short amount of time. And I think I had a chance to talk to you at the Colonial tournament, like right before the pandemic broke, and just to see the excitement with you and how you had, like, that program in 6 weeks, where they had started from, and then how they were ending was pretty exciting just to see, and the thrill you had of coaching that team. But like I said, man, we're here to get unmasked. So I want to start with a question that I love. This is what I always ask my guests. The first question, I think it kind of sets the tone to a lot of things. Like, you've been around the game of basketball your life, so your situation may be a little different.
Yeah.
like we all know there's no handbook to being a college coach. I mean, everyone has their own niche. You figure that out as you go along. I mean, just because your dad was a great coach, that doesn't mean you're going to take exactly what he did. But tell me about your first day, the first week, first month, when things are done with human resources, especially when no one gives you direction. Now, you was fortunate to just be able to coach like a professional team over in Ireland. Like, but now you come home and now you're in college. Like, talk about that, man, when nobody gives you direction. And you had a little bit just because of your dad, but you still got to learn on your own a little bit. Talk about that.
You know, I have a different advantage than a lot of different guys, but at the same time, I couldn't imagine not having that advantage and being asked to do what I was asked to do. So when I left Ireland, you know, I just was coming home. I didn't know. I didn't even know if I wanted to coach, to be honest with you. I like, you know, I'm a young dude. I'm like, I want to play. I want to play. I want to play. And I knew I wasn't like, you know, I knew I wasn't going to play a lot of professional basketball, but there's certain countries, you know, you can go to and, you know, you can have a good experience. You know, you make a little pocket change, have a good experience, have a good life experience. And that's what I was looking for. But I came home, man. I got really lucky to land at Limestone College. My godfather, Joe Gallagher, who at the time he'd been at Richmond, been at BC. He put me in contact with Larry Epperly. And so I took the job, and I'll never forget this, man. Coach Epperly looked at me, and he had been recruiting all summer. He gives me the recruiting notebook, and he was like, hey, we got 7 guys to sign. We got to get it done. And I was like, that's all the guidance I got right there, man. So, you know, the first thing I had to do, I called my dad. I said, hey, Dad, man, look, I need to hit the ground running here. What I need to do. So, you know, I'll never forget that because, you know, Coach Epperly really just turned me loose. And so I was able to make a bunch of mistakes, and we got really lucky and signed some guys. But it was just it was a great experience to get to know how the school worked. I think that was the biggest thing, was like, all right, how do we, at the Division II level, how do you get a full scholarship kid? You got to get a little bit of academic money. You need to get a little bit of need-based money. You need to get a little bit of basketball money, and put those 3 things together and see if you can come up with a good enough package that you can beat out other schools that are recruiting that young man as well. And so that first month, man, a lot of things went into it. Obviously, I was also named a cross-country coach. And that was part of the deal. Like, you know, when you go to that level, you got to get your hands in a bunch of different things. I also ran the student center. So at night, before I'd leave the office and whatnot, I had to go up to the student center and make sure I was, you know, had my student workers up there, make sure they were running the show and everything was up on good to go and running there. Nothing was, them kids weren't breaking the pool table or the ping pong table or whatnot. So, you know, you get your hands in one of those jobs, and you kind of find out, like, hey, man, you got to do a bunch of different things, and you got to be good at a bunch of different things. I always say, jack of all trades, master of none. You know, you just get every little advantage you can get, because those things later on down the road and other jobs will pay off for you. So that first month was interesting, to say the least.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, hey, you were thrown in the fire, so you know, and you know what? You got to learn to swim, so that was a good thing. Like, another thing, we all know that recruiting, that's the lifeline of college athletics. Like, you have to get good players, you have to get good students. And I'm not saying like the typical student, like you got to be an A+ student, got to be an A student. You know, he might be a B student, could be a C, but like, you want kids that want to get a degree. Like, that's the kids you want in your program to be successful. And then you want to have good people. You want to have, because like, if those 3 things go together, it makes your job a lot easier. You know, they're motivated, self-motivated people. So talk about any recruiting story, your best and worst recruiting story you may have had over the years, you know, in this business. Like, talk about that.
Yes. I mean, I've recruited a lot of different guys, man. I tell you, you know, at Spartanburg Methodist, I could only recruit the state of South Carolina. So I had one full scholarship, and it cost $32,000 to go to school there. So you got to take that one scholarship. Same kind of concept as Limestone, is spread it across, you know, 12, 13 different players. So that was a unique challenge. And I think just the guys in South Carolina at the time, man, they were just looking for a great opportunity, you know, looking for an opportunity. I ended up coaching one kid, Terrell Smith, who's he playing in the TBT to date. And just a hungry individual, man, like hungry for success. He's built his own business. Terrell Smith, elite basketball. He trains. I was really lucky to sign a kid at Limestone College from Spartanburg Methodist, Eddie Oates, who lives over in the Rock Hill area. He's a workout guy, man. He's Eddie Oates basketball, like guys like that. You gotta peel back that onion and really find out who they are as people, because that's the biggest thing, Lamar. Like you said, man, there's so much stress in this business. There's so many expectations. If you're not around people that are self-motivated, want to accomplish something, then all you're gonna do the whole time you're there with them is drag them and drag them and pull them and pull them and pull them, and it wears on you. It wears on you as a coach. It wears on your program. It wears on the people around your program, and you want to have people that are highly motivated. The one thing I was really lucky. I've been doing this 22 years, and I've only coached one NBA player, and that's Devontae Kaycock. And he's only dressed out maybe 4 or 5 times on the roster. But last night I watched him. He played against the Hawks last night, and just shows you, like, just be diligent about your work. Like, if you can find guys, and I was lucky enough to coach him. I didn't sign him, but I was lucky enough to coach him. But he is so diligent about the process. Like, when it's 9 a.m., he is on the floor. When it's 10:30, he's in the weight room. When it's time to eat, he eats. And it's just the same routine over and over and over again. And we were really lucky to find a young man that had a motor, and he let that thing run, man. And he found his niche. So one other unique one was Ashton Moore. And you know Ashton a little bit. He played at Nasman River High School, man. Lefty, to be honest with you, Lefty found him. When I tell you Lefty Drizel could still recruit to this day and evaluate talent, I'll never forget. I went to see the kid play, and I was like, I just don't know. He's small. Like any typical assistant, you start looking at all the negatives right out the gate as a player. I knew his family, great family, mom and dad, man, just first class people. I knew he's gonna want to get education, get a great degree. I just was questioning the basketball side. And when I tell you Lefty hammered that thing home to me, man, kid ended up being a 1,500 point scorer. Ended up just breaking all kinds of records at the Citadel. Man, was a great player for us over 4 years. So it's just unique how every single kid you recruit, it's just a different scenario.
Yes, it is, man. You're 100% right. And I just laughed at a moment when you was talking about it. It's interesting because you brought it, and also brought back chills when you mentioned Devontae Kaycock, because I just remember having that scout for 3 years, and I remember just him being a flat out monster, and so you're happy for a kid like him, because you saw where he came from and to where he is. So all the things that you say definitely is that what he is, and guys, like, he made himself into a player, and that's the one thing you kind of pride yourself on, to see a guy like that become successful. Now, like, you're named, you get your program, you're named the head coach at Spartanburg Methodist. You're young, so that's not like you're an older guy. Like, 28. You're young, you're excited to have your own program now. Like, what happens over the next few months?
It was a journey. Like, I tell guys this all the time. That 18 inches is a long 18 inches over from that assistant chair to their head coaching chair. And a lot of things happened. I did not get that job until the first day of school. So I had been involved with the job all summer. And you know how at that level, man, they trying to save money. They don't want to pay nobody except for the 10 months that they're going to work. It was like I think it was a 10-month contract paid over 12 months. So I'll never forget it. Our president came to me and asked me to come back for a second interview. So I thought I was going back on campus for a second interview. And he gives the opening speech at convocation at like 9:30 in the morning to all the students, and everybody's moved in. And I'm thinking, man, I hope this thing goes well today. And he literally walks me into the gym, and we have a small, chit chat conversation, and he offers me the job right on the spot. And so I was like, I don't got a job, so I can't say no. So I was all in. I called my folks right afterwards, and I was like, hey, Ma, you got to help me get my stuff down here in another week or so. But I worked out of a hotel the first week, and I think the whole thing was really trying to establish relationships with because the players were already there. So the freshman class was signed, and then there was like 12 or 13 sophomores that were returning. I was only able to get one guy in the school, and he had transferred in. So really the whole team was the previous coach's team. And so I was able to take that first month, man, and really try to establish me as a worker. The biggest thing I wanted to do was let them know I was going to sweat and work with them. I was still in pretty good shape. You know, I could still run a little bit, jump a little bit, pass it a little bit. And so every chance I got in our skill development sessions, in our conditioning sessions, I wanted to make sure I was sweating with them, because at the end of the day, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if they see you in the process with them, and you building that relationship with them, you eating lunch with them, you're advising them academically, they can then trust you as a coach that, hey, man, Coach Burke's in this thing with me, man. He's gonna try to help me. And that was the biggest thing, because they were not my guys that I had recruited. And so I was really, really lucky. I coached Terrell Smith that year, Brooks Beard that year. I coached C.J. Jackson, Sidney Hoff, and all four of those guys went on to play. And I was lucky to have that opportunity. But how much you don't know until you get in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think you know until you get in that heat, in that battle, and you're just like, oh my goodness. The first game we won by 24 on a Friday night. We played South Georgia Tech the very next day. They beat us by 31. And it was just like, woo, I'm in the heat now.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Now I'm gonna ask you this too, because you got a situation where you was taking over a job during the season. I'm gonna ask you about the UNC Wilmington one as well, because now you're like thrown into it where you start coaching games. Yep. So like, not only you coaching games, and you don't think this way because you're thinking like, we're trying to win games, but you at the same time, like, you want to win games to have a chance to hopefully keep this job, because you're the head coach. Talk about that experience for that next 6 weeks too, because it's like you got to prepare for games. You know, you still want to recruit a little bit. Like you're trying to hold the whole program. What was that like?
Yeah. I think two things. One, it was extremely emotional. The first 24 hours was, just an array of emotions. One, looking at CB. CB's a great human being. He's a great man. He's a great father. And at that level, and when you're involved with a championship program, it ain't a game, man. It ain't a game. They're serious about revenue. They're serious about their program, and they don't want to ever take a step back. And so the pressure of winning is real. It's serious. And that's not even at the highest level. That's just in the Colonial. And so, I hated that we had to go through that. It was just a strain. It was a strain on my wife. It was a strain on me. The emotions of it, the emotions of the kids, man. I'll never forget, they made the decision on a Monday afternoon, and then we went into the locker room to tell the kids, and just the emotion of that whole thing, man, is just, I don't wish that on anybody, to be honest with you. It's a really, really tough deal. And so then you wake up the next morning, you really don't go to sleep. You get up the next morning and you got to take the emotion of it, and you got to take all the feelings out, and then you got to do. And it's like, we got to get out this hole. We are in a hole. I think we had lost 12 straight. And on Thursday night, Hofstra's coming in. They ain't lost a game all year. And you know what they're going to try to do, boys? They're going to try to beat y'all into the ground. They're going to try to beat the brakes off y'all. And like, that's just like, I had to just turn it on real quick and say, hey, man, nobody cares about us. The world is against, I tried to take the whole psychology of it and turn it like people are after us. I say, hey, we got to put our backs to each other's back, man. We got to dig a foxhole and we got to go in together. And so that was what I really tried to sell to them. And then I just had to quickly evaluate, how can I make a change in such a short period of time? And so we changed just to change. We changed the way we started practice. We changed the way we did film. We changed the way we began the start of practice. And then we changed our conditioning. And I didn't know if that would work or not. I was throwing stuff on the wall, just trying to make sure it stuck and try to find a way to do it. And I'll say this, if I did not have those 6 years at Spartanburg Methodist to make all the mistakes that I made at Spartanburg Methodist with nobody watching, with no TV, with no newspaper, I wouldn't have been able to have some of the confidence in doing what I did at UNC Wilmington. Just in changing defense. If you play a junior college game on a Friday, you got to turn around and play another team on Saturday with no practice. And it's a totally different scout. It's a totally different deal. And you might be down 15 before you know it. And you gotta go on the fly and put a box and one in because somebody's just going to work on you. And you got to have confidence in doing it. You got to be crazy enough to try it. And that's one thing about me. I'm willing to try anything. As long as we're going to try to do it right and do it the right way, let's go try it. Then if it doesn't work, you can tell me, hey, that was a bad idea. But I'm crazy enough to try it. And so I think that's the whole idea. Like, you got to go try to win the game. Don't try to play from losing the game. Go win the game. And to be honest with you, I had my dad in my ear, man. His experience, his understanding of the game, his understanding of the business. Like, for me personally, it's a major loss, because that's who I leaned on every day, all the time. And I had great 3 staff guys. Matt Lynch, man, was my rock. Still my boy to this day. Doug Essick did an unbelievable job with our offense, man. He's got a great offensive mind. Jackie Manuel, just a great defensive player himself, and the way he can go on the floor and teach guys and get them to understand, like, hey, this is how it's got to be done. He could still demonstrate at a high level. I mean, Jack would jump in practice and still be our best player at 35 years old. And, it was just, he had a great demeanor to him. And Matt had a great demeanor to him. And we just tried to find every positive we could and run with it. And, after the first night, I think our guys, we lost. We had the lead. Hofstra beat us in like the last 8 seconds. Desiree Bowie made an unbelievable play, man. He's so good, bro. He's so good. But he made an unbelievable play. We had a shot to win, so we lose 63-61. And then I think when we went into the locker room, our guys like, if that's the best team in the league, man, we can show up every single night. And so from that date on, we just chop wood. We put the blinders on. We found a message. We found a way to play. And we ended up winning some games, man. We won the next night, or that Saturday night, against Northeastern, came back from 17 down. And it just took off from there.
Yeah, I just remember watching y'all. That was some exciting times. And you know how, like you just said, like we don't see Wilmington fans are passionate. They expect to win. That's just what it is. I mean, That's how it is there. And so, like, I thought you brought some excitement for those, especially like I talk about it all the time. I used to argue with a friend of ours, Andre Gray, and I'd be like, man, Wilmington, the second best job in the league. Like, I'm like, yo, it's just what it is, with the passion and all of that. And so we talk about it all the time. I'm gonna get into scout reports, because that's another huge thing in this business, or in this profession. Like, I don't think people understand how much time is put into scout reports. Like, we as coaches, you invest, you're watching 6, 7, 8 game films, and you have to, your scout report becomes your game plan that you have to tell the players about, or make sure that they understand it. And then as coaches, sometimes we forget how much we invest into it. We expect the kids to be just like us, but they got other stuff that go on in their life. So, and you can't give them too much, because it's an overload. And if you don't give them enough, you're not going to be successful. So you got to, fit that. It had to be the right fit for them as far as how much you give and don't give. And then it's like, you got, as an assistant coach, you're telling the coach what your thoughts are, your game plan. You're talking about personnel. Coach, he's 2 for his last 30. And all coach knows is he's 2 for his last 30. So he's assuming you're talking about he's a bad shooter. You saying, nah, coach, he's struggling right now. Yep. And when he makes those first 2 shots, coach turn to you and say, I thought he wasn't a good shooter. No, coach, I never said that. I said he's struggling. So you got to be careful with terminology too, not only to the players, but to the coach. We always talk about it, like, even if a kid is struggling shooting or not making, you always now say he's a capable shooter. Those are key words you have to use. And you always know who scout it is, so you see the person jumping up and down and they're on the sideline. That stuff is important. But talk about your best and worst scout reports you may have had over the years. Something that just stood out to you that you like, wow, yeah, I remember this moment.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to tell you the hardest scout to do is that Mike Young up there for Virginia Tech, man. I scouted that joker 5 years at the Citadel, man, when he was at Wofford. Boy, he runs some good stuff. And I tell you, people have no idea how good he is as far as getting okay talent to execute at a high level, if that makes sense. Like, you look at him now, they beat Virginia the other night. Well, they don't have some of the same pieces that Virginia's got from a recruiting standpoint yet. And for them to be able to play that type of basketball, that execution, that defensive minded, that was a really, really tough scout. Excuse me. So I think that to me was always my toughest scout. When I got to the Colonial, I saw a major difference. So the Sun Belt, leaving Georgia Southern and watching and scouting at Georgia Southern, that that's a really athletic league. Like you're going to have a faster pace of play. You're going to have better athletes around the rim. They're going to play up in the white box. Not to say they didn't do that to Colonial, but the level of basketball savvy players inside the league was like, I mean, that was what, 4 or 5 pros in the league at the time. Guys that are going to make NBA rosters, and just trying to figure out like, all right, what's the best way to guard this guy? And then obviously you're going against, the coaches in the league were just, I mean, they got great savvy, man. They understand the game. They're experienced. And that to me was a major jump, and really hitting the scouting trail with that. But I think probably the worst part with a scout is when you don't know if a guy's going to play or not. He might have had a DNP the last game. And then here you are, you're calling around, you're trying to figure out who's on the staff. Like, hey man, so-and-so going to play. Hey, you seen if he going to play tomorrow or not? You looking in the newspaper, you trying to find a blog that they might have write about him. Is he coming off the ankle sprain? Hey, I can't tell you how many people have called me that getting ready to play Wilmington, wanting to figure out if Shaquem Phillips is going to play or not. It's comical to me. So those are the worst, when you don't prepare your team because you don't think a guy's going to play, and then he comes to play, and now you're on the fly, and coach is looking at you like, hey man, why is this guy not in the scout? So, or a guy comes off the bench that you don't have in the scout, and he hits 2 threes on you. That might be the worst.
That I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. That, like, trust me, I've had that a couple of times. Yeah. Like, coach, he ain't even played all year. Like, I mean, so now you got to like look back at a kid's high school career. Like, it's so much stuff that people don't understand on that, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I ask you this, like, what's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you become a college coach?
I'll say one. I think personally, like having 2 kids. My daughter's 24 now. My other daughter's 13 or 14, and trying to live a family lifestyle, be there for my wife, be a great husband for my wife. Obviously going through what I just went through is come March, being unemployed and not being able to land a Division I job, and being 45 years old and looking around going, all right, man, I got to get something done here. That to me, that's a great personal challenge. And, I had a lot of people in my corner. I lost my father April 4th. So that happened right after that. And so now my mentor is I got nobody to lean on except, a lot of different personal people in my life. So that to me has been a great challenge. I want to try to stay in as best shape as I can stay in. I want to stay in meaningful relationships throughout the business as best I can. And coming out here to the middle of the country, that can be a little difficult. I'm away from my wife and kids right now. That can be a little difficult. So, just this process I'm in right now is a great challenge from a basketball standpoint. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Working at the Citadel for 5 years and trying to convince young men to come do something that nobody else really wants to do. Be a cadet, be inside a military environment, take 18 hours a semester, and try to be a Division I player in a really good basketball conference. It's that from a basketball standpoint has been my greatest challenge. But it also helped me, Lamar, when things get bad or things get rough, I can always lean on that experience and say, hey man, the other side is coming. You better be ready for the other side when it comes. So those 2 things I think have been my biggest challenges.
Wow, tremendous answers right there. Like, do you find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? What are they?
Yeah, probably my intensity. Like at the end of the day, like I'm gonna be loud. I'm gonna be a little obnoxious. But you cannot go through this business and not have enthusiasm, because people don't want to be around you. They're like, oh, he's a Debbie Downer. He got a bad attitude, or he doesn't care. It's a real fine line. But I think on my end, I might probably be a little too animated. I might be a little too outspoken. I might be a little too rambunctious on the sidelines. But I just try to have fun with it, man. I love this game. It hit me, man, in 6th or 7th grade. I always watched my dad's players. I wanted to be like those guys. I wanted to be a good basketball player. I didn't want to coach, but I do believe in myself. And I know I can run a Division I program. There ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it. I've got enough experience, but it's got to be the right situation. And I don't mind telling you what my basketball opinion is, because I've got enough experience. Like I said earlier, on those junior college Saturdays at 2:00 in the afternoon, you can learn a lot about yourself when you're down 14 or 15 and you in the huddle with 12 guys and ain't nobody watching. You can find out real quick. And so I think, overall, I feel like I got a really good personality. I try to get along with everybody. I think if you don't work to get along with people inside the athletic department, you will get a bad rep, and that's one thing people always talk about basketball coaches. When you hear stories when you leave a university and you come to a new one, they'll talk about the previous coaches. Now the people that work at the school will talk about you. You best believe that. So I always wanted to leave a good impression on people. And I think, one of my closest friends at Wilmington was our janitor, because the first day I got to work there, Rob came and changed the trash can at 10:30 at night. And I just happened to be there, and I would see him at night. And to this day, man, he lives there in Wilmington. I text with him all the time. And he was one of my closer friends, because, I wanted to make sure that he understood who I am as a person. I ain't one of these basketball coaches not going to speak to you. And, he's doing a job. He's doing the best job he can do. I'm trying to do my job and do the best I can do at it. And he just I got a great relationship with that young man.
Man, that's tremendous right there. I love that. I love that story. We're all educators in this business. That's what we are. I mean, the classroom, the court is like your classroom. You're always teaching, you're always educating. So I'm going to ask you this is, what do you try to teach or educate your players besides basketball?
I think you got to educate them about life, man, and how this thing how everything you do and your habits that you build off the floor will create who you are as a man, will create who you are as a husband, will create who you are as a father. And I think those things are critical, man, to help young men from the age of 18, 19, 20 up to 24 years old, try to help them establish being a young man. If you make a mistake, own up to it. When you look at another man, look him in the eye, man, and have that kind of man-to-man conversation. Get them to understand that they're bad people out here in this world, man. And they're bad people trying to take advantage of you. They're trying to take your money. They're trying to hustle you. And you got to be able to navigate through this, this country. You got to be able to navigate through it. And at the same time, taking those basketball experiences that you have on the floor, the adversity, and being able to see yourself in a team setting, where you're maybe you work at an insurance company and you're in charge of a team, and now you're the leader of that team and you guys are having some adversity. What you learned in college, what you learned on the floor is got to be able to help you in that adverse situation to lead that group and get you guys where you need to be from, whatever your company is looking for you guys to do. I think, and then just trying to get, I always try to let my guys see me as a dad too. See me as a dad to my daughters. I think one of the biggest things I did at Wilmington, man, I brought everybody over to eat. My wife can cook now. I'm 230 for a reason. My wife can cook. She's Puerto Rican, so I enjoy her cooking, and I want to share that with our team, because I want our players to see me at the house. I want them to see what I look like as a husband, that I'm gonna do the dishes, that I'm gonna take the trash out. I want them to see how I am with my children, because when I step in between them lines, I'm gonna be an intense guy. I'm gonna be all business, and I'm gonna try to get you out of your comfort zone as a player. But then I want you to know that I'm a real person too, and that I'm gonna care about you, and I'm gonna welcome you into my home because I trust you and I believe in you as a person. And I think, as you go through this journey of life, man, I've had some great experiences. I look at Anthony Atkinson, who's a high school coach now in Wilson, North Carolina. I was able to spend a year with him as my first Division I recruit, just to see him as a father now, to see him as a coach, listen to him lead his young men. You're doing things the right way when guys that you've been around come out like that. I look at, Matt Van Soyk. I look at Ashton. So many people, all my guys at Spartanburg Methodist, Vernon Taylor, man, what a great example of, I opened up my home to Vernon. I had Vernon move in with me. I had to take him out of class because he wasn't getting it done in the classroom. And, he didn't have anywhere to live. And so I said, hey, man, you got to move in. You got to come live with us. and I was able to impact his life. I think he's playing his 8th or 9th year professionally overseas. He's got a great outlook on life, and those things are part of the salary, man. People don't ever say that, but I take pride in that, and that's part of the salary. You know, everybody wants to make a bunch of money at this thing, but you know, I want to impact lives, and I think, you know, opening up, you know, my heart and my soul to people, I think that's one thing you got to do as a coach in teaching the lessons of life.
Awesome. Wow, man. I'm just listening to some of this stuff. There's some powerful things that you're saying. And you kind of touched on this a little earlier, and I'm gonna dig back into it because I didn't use this word and it's a little different. But like, what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success? Like just being, you know, a college coach. What did you have to sacrifice?
Oh, whew. That's a great question, man. I mean, time with your family. Think about all the Thanksgiving dinners you haven't had with my mom and dad, and we got a big family. Time with my sister, like not being able to see her at Thanksgiving as much as I want to because you playing in that Thanksgiving tournament on the 23rd, 24th in Asheville. My children. I really struggle with that one. Like not being able to teach my daughter the way I wanted to teach her how to play basketball. So something I feel guilty that my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter don't play basketball. Now they play sports. My oldest daughter ended up being a volleyball player at Brevard. My youngest daughter is into swim. But like I'm guilty. Like my dad would get on me about it sometimes, and I'm like, man, I didn't take enough time to like really invest into them as players. But you know, I miss that. Like I'll be honest with you, man. I'm stuck in quarantine right now for another 4 days out in Colorado. So I get out on Friday. But like I'm missing my wife. I'm missing my daughter right now. But my goals and my wife has bought into this is like she understands what I'm trying to be as a human being. And you know, I miss hugging on them a little bit. I miss I think the things I sacrifice too is like my college teammates, like being able to spend time with them like outside of basketball because I'm so immersed in it. And you just dive into this thing and you put so much effort and energy into it. You know, it's a hard act to balance, to be honest with you. It really is. You know, I would love to spend more time with my college teammates at the beach in the middle of June, but guess what? We got 2 weeks of camp. So.
No, I totally agree with you. That's what people don't, you know, it's funny you say that, Rob, because it's like people always ask the question. So like, what are you doing in the off season? It's like off season, like we go 355, 360 days a year. And when there's time for you to go on vacation, you got that cell phone because you're trying to get the next kid to campus, or you're always recruiting. So like something is going on. Exactly. So that's what people don't understand. Like they don't understand that part. Like, no, well, they're like, so what do you teach? And they're like, teach? No. I coach basketball. There's nothing else that I'm doing. Especially when you get to the Division I level. No, like that's a full-time job. And I don't think people understand that at times, you know, that situation.
Yeah. You know, one thing that has happened, and I think it's been over the last 10 years, is it didn't used to be that strenuous, but when they opened up both sessions of summer school and then gave you the time frame in the summer to work with those guys, the workload went to another level. It really did. And I don't know when they kicked that rule in, but you know, you start summer school probably that first week of June, and now you also got camp going on, and you're trying to get your freshmen cleared through the athletic training room so that on day one you can start skill development, and coach can use 45 minutes of that as practice time, and then another 15 minutes. That's when the assistant coach workload to me really just exploded. And then when June's over with, guess where we're going, boys? We hitting that road recruiting. We got 3 weeks of that. And then guess when June's over with, boys? Let's get them dudes we saw in July. Let's get them to campus. Let's get those visits going. Oh, the guys are back August 28th. Here comes skill development workouts again.
In September, you're doing official visits. Like
bingo.
And so your weekend is taken away from you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the stuff that people don't see. Yeah. And then next thing you know, you practicing in October. So you know, it's like, wow, it never stops. Like I asked this question because it's like you said, you've experienced a lot. You junior college, you've been at Division III, like you've been at different places. And I always ask this question, like, what is the strangest, maybe the weirdest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court that you were just like, wow, I can't even believe this kid did this?
That's a good question. Let me think on that one for a second. The one that bothers me the most, and I'll tell a personal story. I have a young man that played for me my second year at Spartanburg Methodist. He was Mr. Basketball in the state of South Carolina, Philip Buxton. And he was going to be a tremendous basketball player, tremendous. And he was at the time, he was a great person. And just had this spirit about him, man. And he came to me at the end of the freshman year and he looked at me and said, Coach, I don't want to play anymore. And I was like, you don't want to play basketball anymore? He's like, no. I was like, well, you still got to go to school. And I just thought he was in a bad spot. And he came to me and said, I want to be a preacher. And he went and became an ordained minister. And his life has taken a tragic turn, man. And I just, me personally, I that bothers me. That bothers me that he has made some decisions in his life since becoming a pastor that have affected him and has ruined his life. And man, I look on that and I just think like, I talked to my wife about it a lot. I was like, man, did I do enough to help him? Like where did I go wrong? I look at what I did wrong. Maybe I should have convinced him to do both. Maybe I play basketball and continue to be a pastor. But I look on that situation, man, out of all the things, the kids I've been around, that one situation sticks in my craw the most, man, because I was not able to help him all the way through. And I think that is coaches. Like when I got in this business, Jim Tribbett, rest his soul, worked with me, worked with my dad, but also pulled me to the side and helped me become, when I was 13 years old, helped me become a little bit better basketball player. And so I really fell in love with the process. And like, he didn't make any money off the deal. He didn't make a big salary, but he helped me and he gave me confidence in myself as a person. And I always want to make sure as an assistant or head coach, I'm giving that back to some young man because somebody gave that to me. And that's my purpose. That's why everybody says, what's your why? That's my why at the end of the day. Would I love to have a great career? Would I love to make some good money? No question. But at the end of the day, Len, I can look myself in the mirror and know I've tried to help impact lives. I want to continue to help impact those lives.
That's powerful stuff, man. I mean, that is what it's about. And that's why I think, the guys who in it, a lot of times, like you'll find more guys, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 guys who are in it for the same reasons you are. I mean, you got a few they want to make money. The younger guys, anyway, they think it's you jump right in and you go to 6 figures right away and have no idea, that doesn't happen that way. No. I mean, only a few of those, and I'm gonna say less than 0.5% that happens to. What do you think is the biggest accomplishment that you experienced since you've been in college coaching?
I'll tell you what, man, I look on this one. I think this is an accomplishment. People might not look at it as one, but I think it was year 4 at the Citadel. We had a good ball club. We had some really young pieces. I think we were playing 2 freshmen and like maybe 2 sophomores and a junior. We had no seniors. We had just lost Mike Grosell the year before. Mike Grosell set the all-time double-doubles record in the Southern Conference. So we had lost our go-to guy. We got into the stretch of that thing, man. We lost 17 straight. And man, I tell you what, my leader at that time was Chuck Drizelle, and that guy brought it every single day, man. I mean, every day. And never let anybody just whoa me. It was never like that. He had great energy. He had great passion every day in practice. He just kept trying to find a way, and you had no other choice. And so, you just really dove into the scouting. You tried to get somebody a little bit better after practice, before practice. You tried to mentally be stable for these young men who were going, not only were we losing, at 11 o'clock at night, boy, they were standing on that line and they were bracing in that uniform every night. And so there was a 2-factor there. And we won our last 3 home games. We beat ETSU at the buzzer. Ashton hit a buzzer beater. We had beat Wofford at home, and I can't remember, there was a third one that we had won at home. And those guys, obviously, were at the bottom of the league. Everybody was in front of us. And then we go into the tournament, and we play Greensboro. in the first round. I think there's only been one coach to ever win a first round tournament game at the Citadel, and that was Les Robinson. Even when Ed was really, really good, Ed won 20 games there. They got beaten. They got a bye, and then they got beat in the first round. So we go into the tournament and we win. And like, I mean, when I say we whooped them, we whooped them. Like we were throwing lobs at the end of the game. So that to me, like really solidified, like you just got to believe in the process, man. And you just get where there's a will, there's a way. And you just got to go find it. And you just got to stay inside and never give up, man. And that to me, that's a life lesson to this day, because when we were struggling at Wilmington and we had lost 13 in a row, that's exactly what I leaned on as a coach. So I would say that would be I take pride in that, man. I really do. I don't take pride in that we lost 17 straight.
I love it. I love that, man. I love it. What's your favorite word or phrase? Because I'm sure you may borrowed it from someone, or you might have came up with your own. But like, what's your favorite word or phrase you like to use?
Oh man, I got so many, and every single one of them I've stolen from somebody. You know, my aunt, she would say this to me all the time. She's an old, tough old Irish lady, man. She was just hard nosed, man. Grew up in the 50s, man, 40s and 50s. She was just a tough old lady. She would say, tough times don't last long, but tough people do. And, not toughness from the standpoint of like, you want to fight somebody. Toughness from the standpoint of they can't break you. They can't beat you, man. They're not gonna beat you. And so I think that one is a big one for me in my life. And my dad would always say this, my dad's favorite saying. They're in every gym in America, Lamar. Would have been, could have been, should have been. Jose would have been a good player. Should have been a good player. Could have been a good player. But they just didn't want to put the work in. And so he always gave me that speech. He's like, who you going to be? What you going to be? And I'll live and die by that, man. I don't want to be a would have been, could have been, should have been.
I love that. And I laugh because I work with a guy who's from Carolina, and he used to always say, would have be, should have be, could have be, don't make no honey. And he used to always say that. And when he used to say it, and I just thought about it when you said that, but he used to always say that. Would have be, could have be, should have be, don't make no honey. And at first I didn't know what he meant, and then I finally figured it out. But
right,
you made me think about that. Like you're not a self-promoter. That's what I love about guys who come on this show. They're very selfless, and you can always tell. Like just talking with a person, seeing a person, just seeing them out while they're recruiting, and you may not always talk with them, but you just you always evaluating people. Like it's just what we are. We evaluate everyone. But I'll ask you, like, if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
Shoot. I hope I use the right words, man. First of all, what's an adjective, Lamar? No, I think I would use passionate. I would use determined, and I would use caring. Because at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna care about you. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I want people to tell me the truth. I got 2 great friends right now that I talk to every day, and like they owe me about my weight. They want me to get in better shape, and they tell me the truth every day, and I'm thankful for that. And so but I care. They care about me, and I want to make sure that I'm returning that caring. So I think I would use those 3 words. Are those adjectives? I hope those are adjectives.
Yeah, they're great. They're great answers though too.
My mama's a principal. She'll be upset with me that I said that.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Put your blinders on and work. Be where your feet are at. Like everybody's looking for that next job. Everybody's like trying to, look down the road. What's in the future? Man, be where your feet are at. Do the best job you can do with the job you got. I don't care what it is. If they tell you you got to sweep the floor before practice every day, man, make sure that floor looks unbelievable and immaculate. Like take pride in that and be right there in that job. Because if you do a good job with that, people will say, hey, so-and-so, like they can get it done. I'll give you a prime example, Lamar. So the young lady here at Colorado College, she's an assistant coach. I've met her maybe 5 times because you can't go into the office. Her first impression and how I interacted with her the first time, and then I watched her on the bench in the very first weekend. I turned to coach this past weekend when me and him couldn't coach, and I said, hey, coach, we got to get Brooke and put her on the bench because she just had this calming demeanor to her. And she's in the process of becoming a really good basketball coach where she's at. And I recognize that with my experience. And Coach Arrington, who had to coach the team, needed someone to help, to help him with the timeouts and the fouls. And her first impression on me and me watching her coach, I had to run with that. And she did an unbelievable job. So, and she didn't even know I was evaluating her, just like you said. I was like, when I met her, I was evaluating her. And I saw her on the bench. And matter of fact, I took her foul sheet. I was like, hey, can you email me your foul sheet? Because I liked the way it looked. I saw what she had done with it. So I think that's the best thing I could give a young coach, man, is do the best job you can do with the job you got, be where your feet are at.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna ask you this because you kind of said something earlier, and everyone has their different meaning of this word. Yeah. Like, what does success mean to you?
It's different for me. I think success to me means impacting lives. Like my dad, I watched my dad impact a lot of young men. I read a post the other night from one of his players. I think the gentleman's 52 or 53 years old, and he wrote this unbelievable Facebook post. And I want to help somebody, man. Somebody help me. Somebody help me get out of my own way and find an avenue to find my passion. Basketball is my passion. I don't even look at it as a job. So I want to make sure I'm impacting lives and helping a young man as he goes through that 4 or 5 year process through college. And I just want to be a part of that.
I like that. And I'm gonna ask you this, and I ask because I like to see what people's minds are. Like, if you had a chance to have lunch or dinner with 4 coaches, and it could be whether they're living, passed away, and you just want to pick their brain, see how they tick. Like, okay, how does this guy tick? How did he become who he was? Like, give me 4 guys that you would want to sit down and just pick their brain and say, I just want to lean on him and see what his thought process is.
I tell you what, I always like to listen to older coaches. Like, I love the stories. These young guys don't like the stories. I like to hear the stories. So I'm going to throw one out there. I heard Bones McKenzie speak when I was a little kid. I'd love to just be around him for an hour or so and pick his brain and listen to him. I think I would want to hear Jim Valvano now. Like after, if he was able to recover from cancer and live a life, and he's in his 70s or 80s, I'd love to hear what he would say about life, not basketball, about life. Because he lived an extraordinary life, and at the same time, he was accused of a lot of different things as a coach. I think I would want one guy that I would love to meet. I've never met him. I've always heard him on podcasts. I would love to pick Lenny Acuff's brain. I think he is such an underrated basketball coach. I think he's an underrated leader of men. I would love to pick his brain. And I'll be honest with you, man. I'd love to talk to my dad tomorrow and talk hoops with my dad, like being able to just, like, my dad always would say, hey, get your 5 then. Get your 5. I'll get my 5. You get your 5. Because I would go back and forth with him. And I miss that a lot, man. Just the basketball side of things, not so much because he was my dad and he was my father, and he made me who the man I am today. I follow his principles, but just the basketball side of it, man, he was really, really smart with hoops.
I know, and I'm gonna ask you this question because I asked, and because I like hearing this story, and I know it still will come back to him. And it's always great when everyone else can hear how, it may be him, how great he was and how much impact he had on you. And so I'd say, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life? And I just like hearing those stories because obviously you came from a basketball family person.
The thing, I tell you what, man, So I blew my knee out when I didn't blow it out. I tore my knee up my junior year in high school. So I played a whole football season. Boom, I get in basketball practice right out of football. I dribble to the elbow, I jump stop, bam, tear my meniscus, tear it pretty good too. So they go in there and clean it out, man. And I'll never forget in the training room at Chowan, obviously I was privileged. I had a lot more advantages than most guys that come back from an injury because my dad had the keys to the gym. And I'll never forget having to go in there and ride that fan bike and the assault bike. Back in the day, we had that thing. That thing was rough too. And my dad, man, he came in there, and I had been back there riding for a while. And I wouldn't say I was going about 60, 70%. And man, he came in there and drove that bus on me, man. And like was right in my ear and just challenging me to come back from this and challenging me to be somebody and be good. And just the way he did that, man, that sticks out to me to this day, man. And so like every time I think about working out, that just sometimes pops in my mind about how, my dad just challenged me. That was the great thing about him as a coach, man. He could challenge you, but you get upset with him. You'd be mad about him. You'd probably be cursing and walking back to the dorm, but you knew that he cared about you. He wanted the best for you. It was just amazing that he could do that to people, man. He did it to me. I'll never forget. I would sleep on the couch sometimes during the summer, right? And so he lived in Roanoke Rapids. So I'd come over there and stay with him. And then he would be leaving in the morning. I'm a college kid. I'm sleeping till 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And he would come down the steps, their bedrooms upstairs, and he'd go, tick-tock, son, tick-tock. Time waits for no one. And I'm going to find somebody that's better than you. I'm hitting the road recruiting.
That's awesome. That's awesome right there. That's awesome. I mean, I just like, and it's funny. Like I heard what you said. You said, you are a native Hertford County or like that Murfreesboro area because everyone else says Chowan and you said Chowan. And like that's when you said that, I was like, that's an automatic Hertford County because no one pronounces it like that except a Hertford County person, Chowan. So I just had to laugh at that when you said that.
I miss home, man. Dude,
I'm sure you do.
Like I miss them country roads, man. I miss being outside and just smelling those peanuts, man. I miss it, man.
I had to ask you this because you are such a energetic, fiery, which I love. Very passionate. Like, what energizes you and brings you excitement?
Seeing what the work you put in with a young man on the floor, seeing some success in a game. Like, let's just say you're working on a pivot out. A guy's driving a hard to his right, and he gets the 2, and he pivots out, and he makes that little 15-footer. Like when you see that happen in a game, oh man, it drives you. The other thing too, like you know this, like when you see a freshman really start to have some success because you're putting in that work and you put in 4 or 5 weeks of work, and then they don't play much near the first game, they don't play much second game. Coach throws them a little bone and they play a little bit, and then you work a little bit more, and then maybe late November, early December, they get in a conference game and they do something and they have a little success. You then going back and preaching that to them. Hey man, 1 minute got you 2, 2 got you 4, 4 got you 8. Look where you at. You get 8 minutes a game as a freshman. And then you show them across the country how many other freshmen ain't playing. And then they come back to the gym with you in a 30-minute session and they just go hard and they get after it and they sweating and they in the process of getting better. Man, I'm telling you now, that'll get me fired up. We doing it right now. Like here at 1:30, we in a hotel over here. We got a couple of guys quarantined. All of them are freshmen. They get to doing the ball handling, man. You start to see the success on the floor. Man, there's nothing like it, man. I'll be honest with you. There's nothing like it.
Awesome. That's awesome. That is awesome. You do love to see that. And so I ask this, when you get another shot at being a head coach, are there any changes that you would make, like, to the type of staff? Like, you got, you vision, like, what guys you want to hire, what type of guys, your style of play, type of players from your last program. And that's going to all indicate like where you land. If like where you land to get a job, because there's a lot of stipulations. Like what would those be if that's what happened? You're fortunate to get another job.
I'll be honest with you. I want to be around somebody from an assistant coaching standpoint. Now, like you said, a lot of factors play into that. But I'm definitely hiring a guy that I know has not had a job before. Those dudes to me, like he's had to look himself in the mirror and find a way to keep himself in the business. Those guys are survivors, man, and they just find a way. And so when it gets tough, they won't break on you. They won't run from the process of whatever you're trying to do in your program. I'm definitely gonna hire somebody that is smarter than me from a basketball standpoint, and I'm gonna listen to them. I am gonna listen to them. You know, I see so many guys that hire coaches like that have all this game experience and all this head coaching experience, and I don't know if they ever use them. You know, like special assistants to the head coach. Like, give me a story. I want a story. Even if you just give me a good coaching story every day, I'm gonna listen to it. So I think that those two factors will play into it, man. Obviously, location and trying to find guys that can recruit the area and have great relationships in the area. My style of play, man, I really took this summer and coming out of the backside of Wilmington and really tried to like see who I am as an offensive basketball coach. My dad was a UCLA high post guy, and he drilled that into me. I ran it at Spartanburg Methodist, but after spending time with Mark Byington, after spending time with Doug, like I really like an open 4-round-1 concept. And we're doing that here at Colorado College. Coaches let me run with it, man. And I've taken some things I learned this summer. Pace of play in space is going to be big to me wherever I go. And I like the fact that I want everybody to be able to handle it, pass it, and shoot it. But at the same time, Lamar, I'm going to find me a big. We're going to throw that joker inside now. Everybody's gotten away from throwing it inside, but I'm going to throw that joker inside.
I like that. Old school, baby. Old school. I like to end with this question because I want guys to reflect and think back. Like, knowing what you know now, like, what would you tell your younger self, to prepare for not just even an assistant, but a head coach? Because you were so young, even when you got your first job. Talk about, like, what would you do to prepare yourself?
Man, that's a great question. What's the best way to answer that? I think just take deep breaths and relax. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself to win. Put more pressure on yourself to make sure the process is going to get you to your end result. And that's with your team, that's with your personal life, and then that's with your development and where you want to go with your program. I thought when I first became a head coach, like, I got to win a bunch of games to get to the next level. And it's not. It's a process. It's the process of me getting better as an individual coach and learning what I'll accept, what I can coach, and what I won't stand for. And then at the same time, trying to be the best husband and father I can be inside that process. And then the process of the program, where that program is going to go and the steps you got to take to be 1, 2, or 3 in that league every single year. I think that would be something I'd tell myself.
Good stuff, man. Well, look, Rob, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to leave with the viewers before we go?
Where there's a will, there's a way. And you just got to go find it, man. Don't ever doubt yourself. Get up every single morning and try to find a way. As long as you got the will, there's the way. You just got to keep working to find it. And so, for all you young coaches out there that are aspiring to be head coaches, be where your feet are at, do a good job with the job you got, and good things will happen to you, and treat people the right way.
Man, awesome nuggets you dropped today. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on to the show. And I want to thank you viewers for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time, and stay safe.